Hi, and welcome to Summer Core. Now, you noticed I titled this Summer Core. I didn't title this Summer Abs. I always say your abs are made in the kitchen and your core is strengthened by how you train. So we're going to use the small ball, the Bender ball, as always, into how we can strengthen our whole entire core body for functional activities in the summer that we do, from paddleboarding to kayaking to et cetera, et cetera. For example, let's take the motion of paddleboarding, placing a ball in between our thighs. First of all, you're on an unstable surface, so your feet are manipulating and navigating the fact that your surface is moving. We want to find strength and fluidity, yet stability when we're on an unstable surface, like a paddleboard. Now, kayaking is different because you're sitting and you really have a different angle of the body. Your hips are in flexion, you're sitting on your glutes, but when you're in a standing position, obviously our glutes are playing a huge role in the fact that we need to balance. So what I'm going to suggest here is placing the ball in between the thighs and don't squeeze it. You never want to think of squeezing the ball, but imagine that it's an egg and you don't want to drop it. So you've got this nice light tension holding the ball with your adductors. Think of when you're on a paddleboard, you're navigating. So you're actually going to start this motion, this side to side motion. All right. And just start to feel it. Now, a better place to do this, to be honest with you, would be to stand on a Bosu, either dome side or upside down. But right now, let's just say, oh, I don't have a Bosu, but I got a mat I can stand on. You could even roll your mat up and make it a little bit squishier, and you'll find that, okay, I've got to navigate. But here's the thing, start to balance on one foot. Start to do some rotational movement. But yet with a ball in between my thighs, it's giving me a little better sense of stability. And switch sides. What's going to happen here is when you paddleboard, chances are, without you kind of even knowing it, you're going to have one foot slightly in front of the other. And that's most likely going to be your dominant side. Intrinsically, we just know that. So maybe your less dominant side, for example, this is the side that you're going to navigate. So think of balancing on one foot, moving the head around, moving the arms around, and notice, let yourself get thrown off balance, because at the end of the day, it's going to happen on water, and a good chance you're going to fall off and get nice and cool down because it's pretty damn hot. So the difference between my right and left side is very significant. I'm much more dominant on my right side than my left. So I want to work on the side that I know that I need some work on. So, and I'm not going to stand here and just balance, okay? Because again, on an unstable surface, like being on water, it's subjective to a wave, et cetera, if that makes sense. But have we talked about core? Well, the more you have intrinsic feeling in your feet, the more you are intuitively balancing and moving. You think your core is being activated right now? Absolutely. But we keep thinking in our crazy, silly fitness industry, the core training is like, woo, do 1,000 crunches. No, that's just shortening everything down. And if I want to have a fluid body that's going to adapt to unstable surfaces, then I need a fluid body to adapt to unstable surfaces. But don't get me wrong, I want stability and mobility as well. But I'm not going to get that if I keep shutting down my body lying on the floor doing useless crunches. So number one, try some balance moves here. Try and see how this feels, and then take the ball away and notice that your balance is going to be even a little bit different. Here's the thing, no matter what age we are, we have to work on balance training. So secondly, let's just use the ball to hold on to, something to look at, and take a little bit of a cross back lunge. And as you hinge a little bit forward, notice that all of a sudden you're starting to really turn on that outer glute, all right? But now go ahead and take the ball down and come back up. So what we want to work on here is lower and lift. So it's here. Now I'm going to start to work on not touching down because I don't want to touch my foot down and I'm working on balance. But if I want to go a little lower, then I can cross behind and lift up. That hinge forward is going to get me to turn on my glutes big time. So once again, if I'm standing there going, woo, keep pulsing up and shortening down the glute, once again, unstable surface, I'm not going to have a very reactive hip area, again, part of our core. So play with the idea of what you can do using the ball, maybe as a balance tool here. This is one, all right? And then another one is playing with the idea of placing your foot on the ball. Now you're not going to push it down, you're not going to roll it back and forth, but start to move those limbs, being your arms, in all different directions and see how that feels. Then ask yourself, as you're doing some of these movements, where am I looking? Typically, when I work with clients, they're going to look down at their foot and they're still going to do all this stuff, but the gaze is ahead. The more we have a tendency to look forward or down, that's where we're going. So the more we have a tendency to look up and look where we're going, for example, the more responsive our body's going to be. Like right now, I can feel my left glute saying, I'm stabilizing, I'm feeling this. So it's really cool because at the end of the day, I have one foot on an unstable surface versus the other. And I still think the BOST is one of the best tools that we can use. Now, a lot of times we start out maybe paddleboarding on our knees, just because we're trying to navigate not being completely vertical yet. And we're paddling here, for example. And I bring up paddleboarding because everyone I know practically does paddleboarding. But here's the thing, being on the knees is much different than being on your feet. We don't have the same receptors in our knees, obviously, than we do in our feet. Our feet are constantly adapting to this unstable surface, and our knees are going, whoa, wait a minute. It's a great place to start, to do some paddleboarding and or sitting and paddleboarding that way. But I encourage you to go to one knee and start to notice how this feels. So dry land training, I can ask you, let's go ahead and start to play with the idea of creating movement. And my left knee has to start to adapt to all the things that are happening here, if that makes sense. And then eventually we're going to stand up and have a little bit of better balance as well. Once again, to get a little bit of the pelvic floor engaged is just placing the ball in between the thighs. You're not going to squeeze it, but just notice what it feels like against gravity to lift through the pelvic floor. Adding reaches, adding rotations. There's no wrong or right here, other than the fact that my goal is to start to feel those intrinsic muscles supporting everything. Abs are made in the kitchen, core is strengthened by how you hold yourself, how you're moving, etc., etc. Okay, so there's your kneeling, a little bit of kneeling work. But for those of you that feel like they've got to feel their abs, we always know that by placing the ball behind our back, we're not over engaging those hip flexors. And by simply looking up at the ceiling, reaching my arms in front of me and then saying, I'm going to bring my arms up, now I feel my core. Here's the thing, people are going, ooh, I want to lift my legs and I really want to turn on my hip flexors. No, you don't. Think of doing this. Start to move those arms around. There's no wrong or right, but notice what happens when you start to move your arms, close your eyes, whatever the case may be, mimicking kayaking. Kayaking, great movement because I'm sitting down and I'm using my core here, my obliques. So maybe you get your paddle out and work here and start to work into the fact that you're strengthening the front of the body so that when you do go kayaking, you don't go, God, my back is starting to get really tired, okay? Once again, core training. So think of all the movements that we do when we go out and play. And I can't encourage you enough to take the idea and take the concept of balance training as core training, reaching down one leg at a time, reaching in the opposite direction. All the planes of motion, all the fascial lines, all are integrated into the total body's core and not laying on the floor and doing crunches. And the more we stay out of our hip flexors, the stronger we're going to have glutes. We're going to actually switch those glutes on versus having dormant glutes. Go out and have a fun summer, but keeping in mind what we do, what we do at home or what we do in dry land training really translates to when we want to go outside and have some fun, keep safe and injury free. This is Leslie, your core training companion.